Yeah, I don't think it will change much, at least in my case, but I think it's probably true of most members of Congress. I don't think it will change much our availability and our willingness to be available to the press and to the public. But I do think we have to add another layer of caution, and especially when you have a big venue like a rally, there have to be added protections in place, I think, for that. But I don't think it changes too much. And look, if we try to, as public officials, if all of us kind of overcompensate, then we let the bad guys win. We've got to continue to engage with people and be available to people. But I don't believe it's going to change much. What it should change, though, and I'll end with this, it should change our approach to our political dialogue. We should be categorical about condemning violence of any kind. We should be categorical about condemning political violence in every instance of no matter which party or side it comes from. But we should not be categorical about judging others, about saying this group is this or this, describing groups of Americans in broad categorical terms. So I hope that's one of the lessons that we bring forward from this horrific tragedy. It was a horrible day for our Commonwealth and our country. We're glad that President Trump is okay, and thank God for that. But we're mourning one death and rooting for two fellow citizens of Pennsylvania who are in the hospital.
How about the rhetoric? In your race, in the presidential race, candidates have flat out said that the future of America is on the line, democracy is on the line, weaponization of the federal government is on the line. Does that tone need to change, or are those just facts?
Well, look, I think we're still going to have, and we must have, spirited debates about the differences between the two parties, whether it's on rights or whether it's on democracy itself. So I think that will continue, but I think there's a way to have vigorous, spirited debate, good old American debate, without preaching violence or even preaching, using language that might trigger someone to engage in violence. So we all have to be careful about language like that.
Usually in moments like this, there is a rally for unity, there is a rally, an opportunity for the country to unite, right, despite our differences. Yesterday, we saw some leaders of the Republican Party blaming the Democrats and blaming the president for what happened. Do you think that just puts more wood to the fire, that just could cause even more division, that could make people even more pissed off? The Republican convention starts this week, and some people are afraid that that's what's going to be the tone of the convention, right? Blaming the other side, blaming what happened in the other political party. What's your sense of that, and what is your reaction to that?
I'd say two things. Number one is I think this is a moment for unity when it comes to categorical condemnation of political violence. Everyone should be saying that. And it should be absolutely categorical. No exceptions, no winking when your side does it, right? So that's number one. And I think there will be unity on that. Number two, when there are examples like you heard this weekend about, blaming someone for this horrific tragedy, now that's a moment where, frankly, I could be categorical and say, well, that's that whole group over there. In this instance, there that I'm aware of, there's two that I'm aware of, Senate colleagues of mine who made reference to blaming the president. That is wrong, and what I'm doing now is condemning what those two did, but I'm not going to be categorical and say that's all Republicans or that's all people on his side, because that's too broad. So condemn those two, and condemn a third if there is a third or a fourth, but target and limit your condemnation to those folks. Don't be broad and say that it's everyone in their party.
We saw Speaker Mike Johnson on Meet the Press, who was also blaming or pointing fingers at the Democratic Party and even the president.
Well, I didn't hear what Speaker Johnson said, but I hope that he would speak to this larger consensus. I think about categorical condemnation of political violence. That's a pretty low bar.
We got time for one more question.
And are you concerned at all about the ability for the Secret Service to do its job effectively and protect candidates, in light of the fact that this shooter was able to undetected be on this route?
Well, I'm not concerned that they don't have the expertise and the resources, and if they need more resources, they should come to us. But look, I have questions. I'm not a law enforcement professional. I'll say that up front. But you don't have to be a law enforcement professional to have lots of questions about why there was a shooter on a building with that kind of sightline to a stage where a presidential candidate is exercising his First Amendment rights to engage in political speech, and that shooter was there. Those questions have to be answered. We need to know a lot more about how that happened. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here.